Avril Lavigne is generally known as an artist that sticks to the rivers and the lakes that she's used to. Her career isn't rife with reinvention or grand explorations. She's mostly made guitar-driven music that takes inspiration from pop punk and soft rock. And she's certainly not the first artist to think of when thinking of 2010's cultural appropriation conversations, a time period where the discourse seemed to be at an all-time high. But she had her moment in the fire with a song that was both ripped to shreds by critics, loved by some fans, hated by some fans, and retains a cult following. Hello Kitty, a song intended to be a tribute, has ended up being viewed as one of Avril's greatest misfires. But why? And who was the tribute for? As many of you know, Hello Kitty is an extremely popular Japanese brand. The Hello Kitty character is a fashionable cat. Hello Kitty has been featured in so many different forms of media, TV shows, comic books, music, video games, and even theme parks. But why is Hello Kitty significant to Avril Lavigne? It's certainly not a character or brand that would typically align with Avril's darker, angsty image. Even at Avril's most bubblegum moments such as Girlfriend, she didn't come across as a girl that was eager to parade around her love of Hello Kitty. But Avril Lavigne is actually extremely popular in Japan, one of the most popular Western acts in Japanese history. According to Japan Today, she was the first Western artist in Japanese history to have 3 albums in a row sell over 1 million copies in Japan. And the popularity of Avril in Japan stems from the very beginning of her career. In 2004, she won Best Record of the Year at the annual Japan Radio Popular Disc Awards for the song Don't Tell Me. In 2012, she won Top Pop Artist at Japan's Billboard Awards. She is so popular in Japan and a plethora of other Asian countries that for years she has dedicated entire legs of her tours to that part of the world, which is not very common for Western artists. A tour will be branded as a world tour, then it'll just be North America and major cities in Europe. But Avril remains a popular figure in Japan, and due to touring, she has naturally spent a lot of time there as well for her entire life. Even when Avril wasn't hitting as hard commercially in the States, her work was supported in Japan, and sometimes far more than in the States, or Canada, her home country. So she has continuously built and held a loyal connection with her Japanese fan base. So in 2013, she wanted to exclusively tribute her Japanese fans, and what better way to do that than also tie in arguably the biggest international Japanese cultural icon, Hello Kitty. Avril described the song as a loving tribute, but the reaction to the song was far from her description, at least mostly. Hello Kitty was released as the 4th single from her self-titled album and was made a Japanese exclusive single. It is important to mention that the song was a big departure for Avril, not only lyrically, but sonically as well. Avril has done various super pop moments, but she's often bridged it with rock and guitars. This song strips all that away as well as her usual lyrical motifs. It takes a lot of inspiration from J-pop, as well as the dubstep and EDM trend that was dominating pop radio at the time. The song starts off with a Japanese chant, before immediately descending into some very out there lyrics. Mom's not home tonight, so we can roll around, have a pillow fight, like a major rager at OMFG. Let's all slumber party like a fat kid on a pack of Smarties, someone check a cupcake at me. Meanwhile, the chorus is pretty straight to the point. Come, come, kitty, kitty, you're so pretty, pretty, don't go kitty, kitty, stay with me. Come, come, kitty, kitty, you're so silly, silly, don't go kitty, kitty, play with me. During the bridge, she sprinkles in a thank you to her fans in Japanese, saying you're all great, thank you. I do think sonically the song has a lot more in common with a Britney or Kesha song from that time period. It also brings upon immediate thoughts of Gwen Stefani and the way she also incorporated Japanese culture into her music. I actually think the song is fine. Would I rank it amongst Avril's greatest songs or even the greatest of its ilk from this period? No. But I remember people heavily panning this song like it was the worst song to ever be released on Earth. And honestly, it is a little trashy, it is a little sleazy, it is below Avril's general standards. It reminds me of the term Eurotrash, but I think it has a very obvious sense of novelty to it that helps pacify the idea that this was an uber-serious attempt, because it clearly wasn't. It has the same type of novelty that Kesha with the $sign had during that time period, where it's like she's clearly in on the joke. I do think it's a song that could be described as camp, so bad it's good, or guilty pleasure, but ultimately, I don't feel that people are wrong to feel that the song is bad either. Now let's talk about the cultural conversation that has tainted this song. The song was not well received, but it's really the video that took everything over the edge. The video is like a fever dream. It's complete and utter nonsense. Avril showcasing a shaved head and just prancing around in grand, colorful sets. The backlash mostly came with how the Asian women in the video were used as props. They have very stoic, expressionless expressions. Not once do they interact with Avril or join in on lip-syncing the song. And it has a certain cold, materialistic feel with the way they were utilized in the video. The video was shot in Japan, but one thing I can say, if it's supposed to be a big celebration for your Japanese fans, why not just make the video feel like a big party with fans instead of this distant cold prop usage? I think that also would have made the video much more electrifying and not feel like such a boardroom project. Avril responded to the criticism by saying, "I love Japanese culture and I spent half of my time in Japan. I flew to Tokyo to shoot this video, specifically for my Japanese fans, with my Japanese label, Japanese choreographers, and a Japanese director in Japan." So she's essentially saying this was an idea cultivated by Japanese people as well. And what might surprise some people is that while Western critics were harsh and unforgiving, Japanese people were far more favorable to the song. In fact, Billboard did an entire article highlighting how the video was viewed in the West versus in Japan. They stated that the Japanese music market is so used to being misunderstood by the West that this latest pop barrage is hardly worth a flinch, and that many viewed the candy cane fluff as a tribute, however shallow, to their homeland. A Tokyo-based journalist and media commentator is one of the forgivers. "I assume that the images of cultures outside of one's own in mass media are always different from the reality, acknowledging that pop culture will reduce anything to a digestible pap. When you're trying to reach the majority of consumers, images tend to be the lowest common denominator." Another Tokyo-based tech and social media expert said, "Searches in the Japanese Twitter sphere and blog sphere show that most of the reactions were favorable. The people who are blaming the artist for racism are non-Japanese, but most Japanese people are not taking it that seriously." The article also mentioned how the video and song are not in line with Avril's typical punk-centered image, which also likely aided to the backlash. Hello Kitty is not Avril's finest work by far, and maybe it's not the best way she could have tributed Japanese culture, but I do think there was pure intention, however tone-deaf some instances might be. Because typically, Avril Lavigne is the furthest thing away from just trying on cultures and disposing of them. This is a very isolated incident in her career. So I do think it might have been a genuine tribute, but, some things could have been better about it. But ultimately, I don't think Hello Kitty is the worst song, but it is an interesting time capsule piece.